So, I'm really happy to speak with you all this morning. I have 40 minutes with you, and that's great. I'm going to be explaining to you some things about meditation, mindfulness. You can call it meditation, you can call it mindfulness. I'm a Buddhist monk. I've been a monk for more than half my life. I've been a monk for nearly 25 years. But I'm not here to preach Buddhism or religion particularly at you. I do quite a lot of meditation and mindfulness trainings for people in the corporate world, in hospitals, in schools, universities, even prisons and drug rehab centers. I also work with performers and people in the creative world. So I'm not particularly going around trying to spread the word of Buddhism as such, but I'm definitely very keen to help people learn how to meditate, because it's such a healthy thing to do for your mind and your state of mental balance and well-being. And in fact, I think meditation is really more of a science than anything else. In fact, one of the traditional terms for Buddhism is the science of mind, or the science of awareness. Because what you're doing when you meditate is you're actually exploring your mind, you're investigating your mind, you're looking at what your mind does, and you're working with transforming your mental attitudes, transforming your thoughts, transforming your emotions. So, really meditation, I think it has two main benefits when people are getting started anyway. One of them is that it reduces stress, and the other one is it really increases your sort of mental capacity. It's like optimizing your mind's power or ability. I would say mental focus or concentration. So what I want to do in this session is share with you some of these ideas and how they work, and also let's do some meditation together, if we can, in this intense environment. But you've all got headphones on, so you can stay focused. I'm having to concentrate very hard because I can hear everything going on in this room while I'm talking to you. So in terms of dealing with stress, I don't really like to think of meditation as stress management. I think it's something more than that. It's more like a transformation of our entire attitude to stress. And it absolutely works. It works on the mental level. It also works on the physical level. In terms of the mental level, I think it's important to understand and to acknowledge that our stress, our suffering, our problems are very much to do with our thought processes. So of course there's all kinds of things happening in the world. There's things happening in our work life, in our home life, that you could say cause us stress. Of course those things are happening, but surely it's our thoughts about those things that really is the issue. Our reactions to those things, the way our mind processes our reality. And that's something we can change. We can absolutely change that. And of course, in the world of neuroscience, they now use this term neuroplasticity. The term neuroplasticity is very similar to what has been described in Buddhism for centuries, which is the transformative potential of mind. Our mind has the potential for transformation through training. So we can change our thoughts. We can change the way our mind processes our reality, and therefore our stress will reduce. So what I want to really emphasize is that meditation and mindfulness really is not about emptying or clearing or blanking the mind. A lot of people assume that when you meditate you're supposed to still your thoughts or empty your mind. That is really difficult and pointless. I mean, to go into a blank state, that's trying to put yourself into an unconscious state, like a coma. I mean, we're not trying to go into a coma, are we? So what would the point be of just switching off and being blank? And also it's impossible. The more you try to empty your thoughts, the busier they become. So meditation actually becomes quite traumatic if that's what you're trying to do. So it's not about removing the thoughts or emptying the mind of thoughts. It's about choosing what you do with your thoughts. Who's driving the car? That's the question. Who's the boss of our mind? That's the question. Because I think our mind very often does things we don't want it to do. You know, when we get into anxiety, fear, stress, worry, sadness, we don't necessarily want our mind to be doing those things, but there it goes doing them. So who's driving the car? Who's in the driver's seat? We need to get into the driver's seat. So that's what meditation does. You learn to direct your attention where you want to send it. And in the meditation session, that basically is the present moment, the here and now. So that's why when we meditate, we often do very simple techniques, but they have very profound value. And one of them is to simply be aware of your breathing. You sit down and you focus on your breathing for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It sounds simple, but it's actually really hard, because you can focus on your breathing and then your mind starts drifting and you've lost your contact with the breath. Like the mind it's like it floating away, and then you've got to turn it around and drive it back. So you are driving the car back where you want it. I mean, please understand my car example is completely a metaphor. I don't mean you're supposed to imagine yourself driving a car. But the idea is you decide. So your mind got distracted, you were lost in thoughts, and then you turn around and you come back to the breath. So you are making that decision to go where you want to go. So the more you do that, the better at it you become. You meditate every day and you become better at returning to the present moment. And of course, what's the point? I mean, what is the benefit? The benefit is that you are going to find it easier to let go of stressful thoughts or negative thoughts, because you're learning how to change your focus, you're learning how to let go, you're learning how to come back. So this is absolutely going to help us to be less stressed, because we're going to be able to not get so caught up in stressful negative thinking. And this also works at a physical level, because our stress definitely manifests physically. I'm sure you notice that in your life, that when you feel tired, when you feel stressed, your body feels exhausted, your shoulders ache, you feel fatigued, you feel unwell. So what is going on? Because generally, most people are sitting behind desks or working in quite, sedentary lifestyles, and yet the body feels exhausted. We're not working on a building site, we're not running a marathon, but the body feels like it has. So what is that about? Well, that is the chemical reaction of stress. It's basically cortisol. Our body tends to be flooded with cortisol. Cortisol being the stress hormone, which is released by the brain when we're under pressure. Now the problem is, cortisol is really not very good for us. It's toxic. It leads to premature aging, it leads to all kinds of illnesses, it leads to tiredness, it leads to cell degeneration, diabetes, high blood pressure, uneven distribution of fat. I mean, these are not good things. So you might then ask, well, why has our body evolved to experience a toxic chemical? Is that a mistake? It's not a mistake, because traditionally it's something we needed for survival. The fight or flight reaction. When we were living out in the plains and we were hunter-gatherers and we were kind of in danger most of the time from predators and the environment. And our brain, the amygdala, the part of our brain that regulates stress, its function is to put us into fight or flight mode when we are in danger. And then that causes the release of cortisol, and then we're ready for action. We either fight or we flee, and then the levels return to normal. That's the traditional picture of the stress reaction, but it's not that toxic because we would burn off the cortisol. Fast forward to how we experience life now. You know, we're living in the 21st century, we're sitting in offices or other types of work environments, and when we're under pressure, we're experiencing that cortisol reaction. We're not actually in danger, we're not running from a tiger, but the body is going into that same mode. And that's because our amygdala, the part of the brain that regulates stress, it doesn't actually know the difference between being chased by a tiger or being chased by an email. It doesn't know the difference, it just knows pressure. So we're under pressure, the amygdala causes the release of cortisol, we are burning up with that cortisol. We're stuck behind a desk, we're not burning it off, we are burning up with it. So this makes us very tired. And most people are living in a kind of cortisol cycle, and they add to that a caffeine cycle, a sugar cycle, more chemicals, just to get through the day, and it's not particularly pleasant or healthy for us. So the good news is that meditation and mindfulness absolutely changes that picture, because when you practice mindfulness in tiny moments throughout the day, and when you practice sessions of meditation, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes every morning or every evening, this trains your brain to move away from that overreactive cortisol cycle. It doesn't mean you lose all ability to produce cortisol. That wouldn't happen. We need cortisol when we're in danger, but it means it's going to get it under control. And it's going to help us to start producing more healthy chemicals in our body. The most interesting one is called oxytocin. Have you heard of oxytocin? It's the chemical of love, happiness, security. The first time in our life we experience oxytocin is when our mother feeds us. Breast milk contains a lot of oxytocin, or the experience of being fed by the mother through breast milk is an oxytocin experience. The baby is crying, then the mother feeds the baby goes into a calm state. Both mother and baby experience a boost of well-being through the chemical oxytocin. Well, if you do a lot of meditation, you are actually producing that chemical, especially if your meditation is based on unconditional compassion. You see, if you're meditating just to kind of get a buzz or feel good, then that's back in the cortisol cycle, or dopamine, in fact. Dopamine is the kind of druggy chemistry in the body. If you're meditating like a drug taker, then that's not going to work. But if you're meditating with a sense of wanting to be more compassionate towards yourself and others, you're going to be experiencing more and more oxytocin, and this is very good for you. So when you learn these practices, you are becoming more in charge of your own chemistry, mentally, physically, emotionally. So meditation absolutely has a really good effect on our stress levels. But the way to practice it really is to make it a daily thing, and also to make it something you can access at all times, even in a busy situation. You see, for many people, they have this image that meditation only happens in monasteries or retreat centers or mountains. You know, how can you possibly meditate in a busy situation? But that's not the point. Meditation is really something we could learn to connect with throughout the day. So it's really good to do 10 minutes of meditation every morning in a quiet place, or every evening, working with your breath or different practices. But what I'm talking about now is this moment of, I call it micro moments of meditation. To have those micro moments throughout the day, 20, 30, 40, 50 times a day. Just a moment. I do this when I'm traveling. You're standing in the airport in a queue, or you're sitting on a train or whatever, and you just have a moment where You feel the ground under your feet. You become aware of your shoulders. You become aware of the seat underneath you. Just a moment. I do this when I'm working, when I'm talking. I do a lot of talks every day, pretty much. I'm doing public speaking. And I do these moments of mindfulness throughout the talk. I'm doing it right now. It's keeping me calm. It's keeping me focused. It's quite necessary now because this room is incredibly noisy, so I'm having to be super focused so I don't lose my track while I'm talking to you. And that's mindfulness. Keeps you relaxed, keeps you present. So if you can make a habit of doing that throughout the day, you are literally training yourself to be calm, to be present, to be happy. Say you're working in a busy office, loads of people, noise, stress, all of that. If you can take a moment every 10 or 15 minutes just to connect with the sensation of the chair underneath you or the ground under your feet, that is a mindful moment. And it means you're always never too far away from your meditation practice. Otherwise, meditation becomes something you do in a sort of special place, away from your ordinary reality. Even could become a kind of escapism. And of course, that's not the point. We want it to be something that's very integrated with our daily life. So I think it's really interesting to do these moments when you are in a situation that normally would make you go into a stressful reaction. A very good example of this is when you're stuck in traffic. If you're in a traffic jam, or even just you're driving your car and you're at the red light at the intersection, or if you're standing in a line, standing in a queue, or waiting for something, the internet crashes, the internet slows down. Somebody sends you an email and you're downloading it on your smartphone, and the phone slows down, the internet slows down. So there's that moment of waiting. And these are generally moments when our mind tenses up. Our mind and body go into a kind of stress reaction. If you can do a moment of mindfulness during that time, you are kind of rewiring your internal computer. You're reprogramming yourself. And what you're doing is you're learning to put mindfulness in the middle of your stress. If you train like this in moments of physical discomfort, like standing in a queue, stuck in traffic, also when you're in pain, if you're in physical pain or you're unwell, of course go to the doctor, take medicine, do all those things, but you're still uncomfortable. So can you have a moment of peace where you just connect with the present moment, accept, be present, all of that? What you're doing is you're training yourself to be calm in moments of stress. You're also training yourself in unconditional gratitude. We always talk about gratitude, we talk about appreciation, how important it is to train in moments of appreciation and gratitude. Well, what that really means is to be grateful for everything, even the difficult things in life. Even if somebody is behaving towards you in a way that you don't like, can you experience that moment with gratitude? Then that means you're conquering your life. You are in charge of your reality because you are grateful for everything. This doesn't turn you into a doormat. You can still stand up for yourself, but you can do it with calmness, precision, and joy. So what I'm suggesting here is next time you're stuck in traffic, you might think, oh good, now I can do that mindfulness thing. So your heart opens, you feel good about the situation that normally would make you feel bad or make you feel, unhappy. You're opening up to it. So the best way to meditate is to do 10 minutes or 15 minutes every morning or every evening in a very structured way, in a calm environment, and then to do these tiny micro moments throughout the day, especially when you're waiting for something. But I think we should try some meditation now. How does that sound? I think we should try and do a little session where we focus on our breathing. So can you sit up nice and straight? It's good to have a straight back. It's good to be in a good posture. And we're going to do a session of breathing meditation, which means you just breathe normally. You don't have to do any kind of deep breathing, just breathe normally, but you're going to focus on your breath. But I'm going to guide you through it because we're going to do it in kind of 3 or 4 stages. So stage 1 is to quietly just sit still and create the right motivation, the right intention, which means to sit and think, why am I going to practice meditation? I'm going to do this for my own peace of mind, but also to bring peace to the world around me. This is the compassion aspect. You're creating a compassionate intention, a compassionate motivation. I'm doing this for myself, I'm doing this for others. So just create that way of thinking for about 10 or 15 seconds. Okay. Now focus on your body. Feel the ground under your feet. Be aware of the sensation of your feet in your shoes touching the floor. Be aware of the chair underneath you, or the box, what you're sitting on. Feel the seat underneath you. Be aware of the contact between your body and the seat. Now travel your attention up to your shoulders. Be aware of your shoulders. Travel the focus down your arms into your hands and fingers. Feel your hands resting in your lap or on your knees. Bring the attention round to your belly, your stomach, your abdomen. Feel the stillness, the relaxed muscles. Nothing is tight, nothing is held in. Now start to focus on your breathing. Don't change your breath, just breathe naturally, but focus on it, feel it, be aware of it. Just feel the air coming in and out, feel the breathing process, focus your attention on it. Don't breathe differently, don't try and do anything, just breathe naturally, but bring your attention to the breath. As your mind wanders, which it will, bring it back. It's like you turn around and you come back and refocus on the breath. Your mind drifts again, you bring it back. It drifts again, you bring it back. Just try that for a few moments. Now let's go into a more precise focus. So become aware of the air traveling in and out of the end of your nose. Breathe through your nose if you can, and feel the air brush against the skin at the edge of the nostrils as the air comes in and out of your nose. If you can't breathe through your nose, then of course breathe through your mouth, and feel the air traveling across your lower lip. But either way, you're either focusing on the end of your nose or your mouth, and you're really feeling the sensation of air traveling across the skin. And when your mind wanders, keep returning to that place. We'll try that for a few minutes. So your mind might get distracted by thoughts. I don't know if with your headphones if you can hear any background noise. If there is noise, that's okay. Just learn to keep focusing back on the breath. Everything else that's going on takes you away, but then you learn to come back. Let's try another couple of minutes. Really try to feel the sensation of air traveling in and out of the end of your nose or your mouth, and you're just focusing the attention on that place, and when the mind drifts, you come back. We'll do another 2 minutes. Okay, so now to complete the session, focus again on your body like we did at the start. Feel the ground under your feet. Be aware of your body connecting with the chair underneath you, the seat. Feel the contact between your body and the seat. And the last step is to remind yourself again why you meditate. What is the motivation? The motivation is to be of benefit to yourself and benefit to others. The motivation of compassion. Just remind yourself of that strong intention to care for your own mind and to bring peace to those around you. That's the intention behind the meditation. And stop there. So that's a very simple technique using the breathing, but I'm sure you noticed that there were some little steps around it. It's really useful to spend a moment at the start and the end of each session remembering why you're doing it. It's like creating the right motivation, the right intention, the intention of compassion. Compassion for yourself, compassion for others. If you put those thoughts at the start and end of each meditation session, you are then going to be following a journey. Otherwise the meditation is very random. So my suggestion is to try and do that every day for 5 or 10 minutes. Time it, have a clock next to you and do a 5-minute session or a 10-minute session. And then in addition to that, throughout the day, try to have those micro moments of mindfulness. In those moments, you wouldn't necessarily be focusing on your breathing because you might be in a very busy environment, but you could just focus on your body or the present moment in some way. Maybe you could be cleaning your teeth with mindfulness, or washing your hands, or washing the dishes, or doing a simple activity in a mindful way. Or, like I mentioned, standing in a queue or stuck in traffic, but going into that mindful state for a few seconds. The more you can do that throughout the day, the more you are always changing those stress reactions, and also you're putting yourself into a more focused, conscious state. And this helps you to be utilizing your mind to its fullest potential. So, I don't know if we have time for questions, but I would need a headset because I can't hear anything. Is there a spare headset I can use? Somebody's bringing me one. Oh, he's bringing me one. Great. And if anyone would like to ask a question, please put your hand up and somebody will bring you a microphone. Any questions? One here at the front. Can somebody bring a microphone to the front row? Oh, there you are. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Whoa.
Oh, that's loud. Oh, wow.
Sorry.
Little further away.
Okay.
Everyone went. Okay, hi.
Hi, my name is Bernhard.
That's good.
What do you think about the digital development in the world? That's it.
Yeah, I mean, technology in general, yeah? So I think technology, the digital development, is all good stuff. It helps with communication. It helps with saving lives even. But the downside is when it makes us so distracted that we lose touch with the present moment. It tends to make us more absent. So I think if you can practice meditation every day, then you can stay in control of the technology rather than the technology controlling you. And one thing I think is a little bit harmful is when we use social media to get people to validate our experiences. A lot of people do that. You know, they've lost touch with how to enjoy their life. They need other people to give them likes in order for them to feel okay. So using meditation in order not to get too swept away, I think, is the key point. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Next to you, there.
Hi. I'm not sure. Okay.
You're good.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
talk and for the meditation session. It was very useful, I think, for this in this environment.
Absolutely.
My question is, when you want to encourage others to do it with you, what's the best way?
I think you've got to lead by example. You know, we can't force people to meditate. We can't sort of convert them, you know what I mean? But if you meditate a lot and it makes you into a calm, happy, compassionate person, people are affected by that and they want some of that. And they ask you, how did you do that? And then you can tell them. So I think leading by example rather than trying to enforce it on others, I think that's very important.
I have another question,
Sure.
if that's all right.
Yeah.
What was your big... I suppose you are a monk in,
I am a monk.
in Tibet.
Not in Tibet.
Not in Tibet. Okay.
I follow Tibetan Buddhism, but I'm a monk in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your biggest challenge in the journey that you managed to overcome?
Well, I did a retreat that lasted 4 years on a remote Scottish island where we had no contact with the outside world and we were meditating for 12, 13, 14 hours a day, all enclosed in a building. That was incredibly tough, but very rewarding because it taught me so much about myself and about meditation and how to share that with others. But I would say that's been the most challenging experience of my life, actually. 4 years retreat.
One more?
Okay.
I don't know.
3 questions, great.
Okay. What made you choose this path in your life?
I don't know if we choose anything. I think things choose us. You know what I mean?
Care to explain more?
I just think I believe in karma. I believe that we end up doing the thing that our karma encourages us to do. I suppose in Western speak we would say we follow our soul. However you want to explain that. So yes, we seem to be making conscious choices, but it's almost like the choice makes us. So when I was 21, I don't know why or how, but I decided to become a monk. I mean, it was completely bizarre because I wasn't hanging around monks. I was living in New York. I was around very, non-monkish people, and I decided to become a monk. I was very unhappy. I was very stressed. And the thought of Buddhism, meditation, and being a monk just felt like the thing I wanted to do, and I did it, and I haven't stopped. I'm still a monk. I'm a monk for my whole life. But I think these choices make us, rather than we make those choices.
Well, thank you for answering my 3 questions.
Question over there. Hi, there's a lady just there, in white.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for the session again. And the thing is, it was pretty easy to do it with you, with the instructions, and to come back to the topic and to concentrate. But I know myself, and if I'm going to do it at home, I know my thoughts are going to drift away again. So what are your recommendations to get into it and to start with it if you have nobody else in your ear in a headphone who gives you the point to come back?
Well, I think when you're beginning, it's quite useful to have some guidance, and you can actually get that from the internet. I mean, you can use apps. There's a great app called Headspace.
Headspace?
Yeah, it's a good mindfulness app. So you can use apps, and you put headphones on and it guides you. But eventually, it's good to also just learn to do it for yourself. And it is more distracting because there isn't a voice saying, come back to your breath. So you've got to make that effort. And that's actually when it goes deeper, when you are becoming your own guide. But also it's good to find a class. I'm sure in your area there are mindfulness or meditation classes, and that's always good to find a teacher and get some guidance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Question there, next to you.
Yeah, I think we've got time for one more question.
One more. We have 1.5 minutes, so let's...
Hi. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
your talk.
Thank you.
So my question are all kinds of stress harmful for you? Because there are stress that make people feel motivated.
Yeah.
They drive them to perform better.
Sure.
And in that case, how does one, if one enjoys that kind of stress, how does one find intention to do mindfulness?
I think there's a difference between energy and stress. It's okay to feel energized. It's okay to feel challenged. It's okay to feel you want to push yourself and you're facing some kind of challenge. But when it tips into being toxic, when you start to suffer, then it's become stress. So when you do a lot of mindfulness, you start to become aware of that tipping point. You become much more aware of your mind and your body, and you can see when the energy is becoming toxic. So you become aware of that situation, and then you can pull back and stay with the energy and not go into the stress.
Thank you so much.
So thank you very much for your questions. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a really good time these next couple of days. Thank you so much.